Hey guys, and welcome to I want to call it a series. I hope it's a series. I'm just gonna call it This Week in NALCS, kind of parody off of my own thing, but which is also a parody of it. Anyway, I'm gonna be your host, Trombone, and we're gonna be talking about this week in the NALCS. Kind of spread this on is there's a lot of different things kind of happening right now. Um, and it's kind of really interesting to look at. I mean, CLG's at the top at the beginning of the split. Obviously, a little biased. I'm a huge CLG fan, but it also gives me a little bit of insight on how they work, and they don't start splits strong. So seeing them at the top of the league for the at the top or near the top for the second week in a row is actually kind of really interesting for me to see, and that kind of spread on to what's happening in the NALCS. Just kind of a couple things that we can see, a couple meme shit, a couple meme shit, a couple of meme things that we can kind of stay focused on. And let's start with do not play a fighter mid in bronze, please. You're probably not used to it. You're probably just going to lose. So unless you have extensive top lane play with some of these carry champions, Fiora, Kled kind of things, please do not play them in bronze. I please. He looked interesting on Fiora. I saw some Kled in either LPL or LCK. I know this is about NALCS, but also some things that I saw that I don't want to see in my own games. So please stay away from them. But I wanted to kind of talk about, where the NALCS is and kind of how that's going to look moving forward. First of all, standings, we have CLG, Team Dignitas, Immortals, and Envy all at 3-1, tied for first place. Below that, we have TSM, Echo Fox, and Cloud9 all tied at, well, what's called fifth place, but essentially second place at 2-2. Then we have Team Liquid, FlyQuest at 1-3, and Phoenix One all the way down at the bottom at 0-4. So that being said, week one looked like a total shakeup. Immortals, CLG at the top. People were talking really hyped about Immortals and what they can do. But this week we kind of come in, we see Envy do pretty well, and it kind of got me thinking, like, how strong is Envy? Obviously this video can be as long or as short as I want to make it, so I'm going to expand on some points, and I'm going to taper down on some points as well. So I wanted to start, kind of look at some of the matches that went on this week, and what that kind of means moving forward for the league, seeing as it does kind of look pretty interesting from a standings point of view, at least for me, to start this split off. So first of all, we see a Cloud9 victory over Phoenix One. Cloud9 is kind of up in the air for me right now. Their week one was really, really shaky. They went 0-2. They played some really tough opponents. Looking at it now, TSM, CLG. So them starting 0-2 isn't really that difficult to see. Like, them still pull out a win against somebody. Everyone thought they were trash, but they're still a decently strong team. That's not going to change. So seeing them win against Phoenix One, not a real big shocker to anybody. But the fact that Phoenix One is doing so poorly is kind of a shocker to me. I mean, they are, third place team from last split. They're coming in. They looked pretty good last split. They were a reputable team, and a lot of people were talking about, them potentially going to the finals and, being able to play in that kind of situation for the split. But now they're coming in. They're looking really, really poorly. I can't really point to any examples in that. I tried to, between work and just the games I wanted to watch, I didn't end up catching a whole lot of Phoenix One. I can't tell you why they're bad. I just know that they're not fantastic. And they're not looking fantastic. They're not feeling like a good team. Like, they're definitely not feeling like a top 4 team this split. Next match we saw on Friday was Team Envy beat Immortals. So Immortals came in. they're looking super strong. They beat some pretty decent opponents. I mean, they beat TSM. They had a match against who the fuck did they play week one? I don't know. They had a decent strength of schedule week one, which makes it kind of surprising that Team Envy, someone that I didn't put a whole lot of stock in, like I said, and then they came in and lost to Envy. So the fact that Envy is where they are and they ended up beating Immortals first game of this week is actually super surprising to me. That being said, Envy is looking a lot stronger. I don't blame Immortals for losing to them. They're definitely looking like a top of the pack team, or at least if not, very close to that. Moving on to Saturday, we had Dignitas beating TSM. Now that one surprised me. Another team that I didn't put a whole lot of stock into. Obviously they went 2-0 the first week, but it's kind of a toss-up. It didn't, so Dignitas is not something that a team that I put a whole lot of stock into, coming out and beating TSM. Obviously TSM bringing Doublelift back, I thought that was going to be a great thing, but there is still a lot of communication issues that they're having to work out. There's a lot of different play styles that they're going to have to adapt to and change because Doublelift is back, and they're going to have to refigure out their identity for this split, which is almost at a detriment to TSM. So Dignitas beating TSM, as it is a little bit surprising, it's not unforgivable on TSM's part. It's not anything that I would hate on or anything like that. It's just a little bit surprising. Moving on, CLG beat Echo Fox. I did actually happen to see that whole series. Quite the interesting one. Echo Fox was actually looking really strong. Being a 2-2 team, they do look decent. There's a lot of talk after last week that they were going to be super good, top of the pack. There's a lot of outrageous claims that they were best in the NALCS. Not anything I agreed with. They weren't anything special last year. They've never been an impressive team. And to see them come out 2-0 doesn't mean they're an impressive team. Although CLG did narrowly pull out a win. Like I said, I do fanboy over CLG a lot. They're my favorite team to watch. I started watching pro play at MSI 2016, and they just carried themselves with such a classy demeanor. They're just so classy. I don't know. It really spoke to me, and I was a fan ever since. But that being said, they looked really up in the air against Echo Fox. It almost looked on par with how they looked against Cloud9, that kind of win, that was kind of shaky. They ended up pulling it out in the end, but it could have gone either way. And obviously, CLG has a lot of problems with playing to the level of their opponents. They do it quite frequently, if not all the time. So it's kind of hard to actually gauge where CLG can be at one moment in the split. The fact that they are pulling out wins, despite playing down to the level of their opponents or up to the level of their opponents, still very commendable, because that's not something they can always do. It's something they've never been really strong at. But that happened. That was a pretty close series. Like I said, it came down to game 3. And yeah, it wasn't a smash in either direction. So Echo Fox, maybe not the weakest team in the NALCS, but definitely not the best team. Definitely not looking like it. Immortals beat FlyQuest. FlyQuest has been looking like shit. They look really bad. Something I want to get into on this one is they brought in Wild Turtle. Now, Wild Turtle is one of my least favorite players in professional play in general. I feel like despite the teams that he's been on having really great domestic performances, he's always backed that up with very lackluster numbers. He's always went to international competitions off the success of the domestic kind of competitions, and being that team going very far, and just he's a team killer. I'm sorry, I'm sure maybe if I watched him from his rookie split, maybe I'd have a little more faith in the guy, but I've just seen lackluster numbers going into international competitions or big time competitions, and him just flopping every time. So seeing him move to FlyQuest and then FlyQuest doing poorly, Maybe not entirely his fault, but being as I do hate Wild Turtle as much as I do, I will assign a fair amount of blame to him. Um, but also maybe, FlyQuest has some difficulties finding their own identity with the new AD carry. And Immortals by no means is a weak team. However, I'm just very unimpressed with FlyQuest this split. I thought they had a lot of promise last split, and it's super disappointing to both see them pick up Wild Turtle and do so poorly at the beginning of this split. So that was that match, and my opinion on FlyQuest, I guess. The last match on Saturday, in addition to the Immortals, FlyQuest was also Envy versus Liquid. Envy beat Liquid. Nothing surprising there. Liquid is definitely looking like a bottom tier team. I don't know how far towards the bottom, but they're not looking much better than last split at all. So seeing Envy pull out a win over them isn't super surprising. However, it makes their victory against Immortals look a little more earned. The fact that they can knock down a lower tier team and actually kind of solidify their place at 3-1, among the first place teams is not surprising to me at all. And it's really nice to see, Envy kind of pull out a win and be in a competitive place. Some place that I don't think I've seen them be at and since they entered the league last year and made it to playoffs. So it's kind of neat to see them reach that level of success, kind of have their knockdown season, and then come back up and be a competitive team again. So that's Saturday. Wow, am I just... Yeah, I am. Okay. Sunday, we're going to move to Cloud9 Echo Fox. Cloud9 beat Echo Fox. Again, Echo Fox looks like a decent team. However, maybe not one of the best teams. So the fact that Cloud9 did come out and beat them isn't entirely tragic by any means. Cloud9, despite being 2-2, do look like a top tier competitive team. It's just something that they come in and they always do. So seeing them, pull out a win against Echo Fox, who did show some promise, isn't that surprising. I shouldn't see Echo Fox be too demoralized. Although I did again say that against CLG. So I'd hope that their success from week 1 can kind of carry some weight, despite because their strength of schedule in week 2 was pretty difficult. CLG's a team that I'd probably put towards the top, and again Cloud9 some team that I would also put towards the top. It's not that surprising. What is surprising is Dignitas losing to Team Liquid. Now I've seen a little bit of an analysis because I didn't watch this game myself. I was too busy waiting for the CLG TSM games, but Dignitas losing to Liquid is disheartening. Just like Envy beating Liquid kind of solidifies their place as maybe more of a competitive team, in that top tier, maybe not the upper echelon, but one of the top 5. Dignitas losing to Liquid is definitely a knock on them. Liquid is seen as a lower tier team, and they should be treated as such until they can show that they have a little bit of something going. Them beating Dignitas, a 3-0 team, as they were 0-3, maybe isn't the best representation of that, as you have seen Liquid completely knocked down by some of the better teams, CLG and Envy, assuming that they can keep up what they've been doing. I think they also got knocked down by Immortals in week 1. Let me just double check that. It was Echo Fox. So maybe a team that might be there, might not. So the fact that Dignitas actually went and lost against them is pretty surprising, especially a day after they beat TSM, someone that we could see probably being in the upper echelon again. Maybe it makes Dignitas a viable contender for maybe top 5, but it doesn't solidify them in that place. And I feel like there's a lot more improvement that can be put in to make something out of Dignitas's hopes a reality. CLG lost to TSM. Super interesting series. Went to game three, of course, because it's the rivalry. Not because it's a rivalry, but obviously two very stable teams, very consistently good teams, debatably. TSM pulls it out off of a stupid play, honestly, one that I've seen way too much in my shit tier to kind of accept as just a fluke or a silly mistake. Obviously, it was a silly mistake, but it was very disappointing to see from a pro team that I've been looking up to, and I was really excited about them doing well. The fact that it was against TSM, maybe a little bit of slack to be cut there, but they overstayed, plain and simple, and that lost them the game. So, and the series. That was a little disappointing, super disappointing. But it kind of says that CLG and TSM are kind of up in the air. Who might be better. So it kind of boosts TSM stock a little bit, and I think it might hit CLG's stock a little bit as well, drive them a little lower as maybe one of the better teams, seeing as TSM does have a lot of difficulties, but they've consistently been top of the pack, near top of the pack. So the fact that it was against them and assuming that they will make it to a place like that again isn't completely disheartening. So that was that series and kind of where they stand. And then Phoenix won, losing against FlyQuest. Again, FlyQuest has been looking really bad, but Phoenix One has been looking just god-awful. So, interesting match to watch. Probably two lower tier teams just kind of going at it. Not one of them, one of them has to finish with a victory by the end of the week. They can't both go 0-4. Maybe FlyQuest is just a little bit better, and it does kind of put Phoenix One even lower. Seeing as and it's super disappointing. They looked really good last split. I was hoping that they'd stay decent, but seeing them at the complete bottom of the pack and on, quite frankly, deserving to be there is pretty deserving almost. So yeah, that's kind of where I sit with that. So, looking at the standings one more time, CLG, Team Dignitas, Immortals at the top. Maybe CLG and maybe Immortals deserve to stay there. Team Dignitas maybe more below that at a middle of the pack. Team Envy, maybe they deserve to stay as well among the top four teams. TSM, Echo Fox, and Cloud9. TSM probably has some room to move up, as does Cloud9. Echo Fox has been losing and not losing anything super that they were expected to win, so maybe they could probably come up. I don't think they deserve to be a top four team, but they definitely could be like a top six team. TSM, Cloud9 probably somewhere in that top four. If I had to put where I actually think the top four is, I'd probably go Cloud9, TSM, CLG, and Envy with a possible Immortals in that fourth place spot. Team Liquid stock keeps consistently low. I think there's still a drag on anyone who loses to them, and not really that much into them beating anyone, seeing as they only beat Dignitas. Dignitas didn't look great in that game at all. The fact that they're 3-1 shouldn't say that Team Liquid is improving significantly by any means. So that's my opinion on that. FlyQuest and Phoenix One, a lot of room for improvement. Phoenix One, I hope they don't stay at the bottom, but I highly foresee them staying in a spot like that. Not saying that they can't turn a split around, not saying that all hope is lost, but judging by their schedule so far and the opportunity that they have to grow, they haven't taken it. And I think that other teams in this league, namely Immortals, Envy, CLG, are improving at a much faster pace and are just projected, in my mind, to outpace that skill from them and make it to the top. So that's kind of a week in review with the Mimi shit out in the beginning, and just kind of what happened, something to, somewhere to expect these teams to be in the future this coming week. Coming up, we have Immortals versus Team Liquid. Another chance for Immortals to prove that they deserve to stay where they're at. Envy versus Echo Fox. That one will actually be kind of interesting to me. It'll mean something for either team that wins. Echo Fox wins, maybe they deserve a second look. Envy wins, maybe they deserve a second look as a top 4 team. TSM versus Liquid, that'll really see if they've worked out some of the kinks that they've had, starting to split with a few issues. Immortals Cloud9, now who wins that won't really prove one thing or the other, as they both, in my mind, are one of, some of the better teams in the league. However, how close it is could be very telling of where those teams deserve to be. And, does Cloud9 deserve to be a little higher? Does Immortals deserve to be a little lower? Really more, less who wins, more how the games look. Do they look close? Do they look like these teams could both be in the running for a top 4, top 5 team? Playoff teams, are we looking at them right there? CLG versus FlyQuest. I feel like FlyQuest probably has more to prove, but CLG does need to have that win to be considered, the best. They're looking at the best. They have the best standing currently, so they need to beat FlyQuest to maintain that and really show the NALCS that they do deserve where they are to be where they are. FlyQuest, if they win, you can expect that to mean that they are in an upwards trend and that they do deserve to be at least top half of the pack. Dignitas versus Phoenix One. Not really telling about where Dignitas should be. If they can pull out the win, then maybe a little more credit's given to them being towards the top, because if you can beat a lower tier team, then you have more validation to be where you are. The Liquid's kind of that team to beat, to kind of show, but also Phoenix One should be one of those teams to kind of see where you actually lie, how confident and how consistent you are. Envy versus TSM, one that I'm super excited to see. If Envy pulls it out, then it's in my mind, Envy versus Echo Fox deserves, he's who deserves to be in the top 4. Envy versus TSM, is Envy a serious competitor? Is basically what that game means to me. Maybe not so early, but it's definitely a teller of things to come. CLG versus Phoenix One, same thing. If you could beat Phoenix One, you deserve to be where you're at. Shows consistency. Cloud9 versus FlyQuest. Again, a situation where FlyQuest has more to prove than Cloud9, but Cloud9 does have some gain out of beating FlyQuest. Dignitas versus Echo Fox, kind of the same thing as Envy versus Echo Fox, just on a probably more gain from the win to Echo Fox than Dignitas, as not much stock is put into Dignitas or Echo Fox, but I think Dignitas is seen because of standings as better, but Echo Fox has more to prove by winning and showing that they can be a competitive team and possibly in the top 4 again. Not really necessarily whether they're competitors in it, but whether they can sit there and stay there. So that's a little bit of a weekend review of the NALCS. Also a little bit of look forward to the upcoming matches and what that could mean for each team. Thanks for sticking around for all of that. I know it was pretty dry, pretty boring, but hopefully my weird-ass facial expressions kept you entertained long enough to kind of hear the substance of what I'm saying. Like, subscribe if you want to see more of this. Feel free to comment. Call me a fucking loser and that I'm wrong and that I don't know fucking shit about LCS because I'm just a stupid bronzy. If you think differently, if you think anything that I've said was out of line and you'd like to correct me, please feel free. Anyway, I think that just about wraps it up. Thanks guys again so much for watching. Thanks for dealing with the the break that I'm on. Obviously, not so much on this one, but thanks and I appreciate it. And until next video, you have a good one.